I tend to have slightly mixed feelings about BingoToys toys. I've had a couple of their things before this one. This being BingoToys Super Soldier Jezzy, as the title implies, and I'm not super into the name, but whatever. I did have their Windblade, and figure looked cool, but the transformation was just kind of for me, and I didn't like how delicate I felt like I had to be with it. I had their Bumblebee movie Shockwave, and it's a pretty cool figure, but there were some limitations in the articulation, and also the transformation was kind of weird and annoying in a few places, and the gun mode is kind of not great. And it also didn't feel that wonderful. So, it's been kind of hit and miss. But I really, really liked how this looked. This has kind of like an MDLX, like a 3.0 MDLX jazz design to it. I don't think it's actually, I think you could tell them apart pretty easily. But like, it's got that kind of stylized super robot almost aesthetic with like a lot of harsh edges and some extra detailing here and there. So I thought it looked really cool. And got it a fair bit ago, actually. I just took forever to make a video on it. And this is an incredibly cool figure that has the downside of not coming... I don't think he came with instructions, and the videos that I watched to learn how to transform this guy, I could only find ones that went from vehicle mode to robot mode, and he comes in robot mode, so that was a little annoying, but we've got him now. Here he is, and as you can see, I'm starting in robot mode because I'm going to be going into vehicle mode, because why not start off strong? We'll get to the vehicle mode. But yes, Super Soldier Jezzy here is incredibly cool, and he is also covered in accessories. And while it does look kind of ridiculous, I do appreciate the fact that the accessories all have places to go in either robot or vehicle mode, or both. I do like that a lot. As you can kind of see here, the swords can peg into the hip skirts. So I could easily just take this sword off. There's like a little peg there that can peg into the hip skirt on the side. I believe... No, he just has the one thing for a port for plugging in the gun. But that's okay. But I think the guns can also store somewhere. Maybe I'm misremembering, but they can peg together, so you can kind of store them that way. And he also has the speakers on his forearms, which that's where I keep them when I have them displayed, but these just tab into the forearm, so you can untab them. And I believe these are supposed to... No, they don't tab in there. Okay. Weird, actually. I kind of expected them to tab in there, but they've got places to go in vehicle mode, at least. Not fantastic places, but they do have places to go. And if you wanted to, you could tab the speakers together and make a kind of like boombox thing. I don't know. But we will get to all of this stuff a little bit later. But yeah, I think this guy is very cool. And the transformation's actually not bad. It's more involved, but like it's not like third-party transformation, It's manageable. So, well, first let me take all the accessories off this guy. So, core figure is, again, really cool. I really like the aesthetic they went with here, and he just looks super neat. He does not have any lights in the head, I don't think, but that doesn't really bother me, and it's nice and closed off. I like that you've got slightly different shades of white in a few places, like the thighs, the white is a bit brighter, but then the like the car bits, it's a little bit slightly off-white, but they all have this really cool like pearlescent, like there's this pearlescent quality to it. Oh, and the backs of the hands, that's like the same brighter white as the thighs. But I like this pearlescent quality that they have to the plastic, and also there's just a lot of picked out detail, like the coppery gold in the toes and the shins, like just this little strip in there is done, which is neat, and like all the detail going up in the shins and the knee pads and on the insides of the legs. There's some extra detail on the sides. Here, the hip skirts have multiple colors going on. The front skirts, there's that really nice, I love like the two-tone color schemes whenever figures use those. Like in here, you've got this white and gray, where they're similar-ish, but I don't know, I like the two-tone, where you have like the plastics or colors that are similar but slightly different, like one shade's darker or whatever. For the shoulders, it's also kind of interesting. Looking at it under the light, I didn't realize how much of this is like a dark blue. You can kind of see it on like the feet, the knees, the painted bits on the thighs here, and like the shoulders and biceps. But then up on the shoulders, it's like the blue is here, but then you got this separating line of this gold, and then it's black. And I don't know, I think that's cool. I think it's just enough to, like, it doesn't look busy. He doesn't look boring. There's no bits on him that are like, oh, that's too plain. It's all broken up with something, whether it's sculpted detailing or color, but it doesn't, like, it's not overwhelming, but it's also not boring, and I really like that. And then in the torso, he's also got some nice detailing and just shape going on. So yeah, it's a very, very cool figure that has a couple of things that I'm not super fond of, but it's not bad. It's just stuff that I kind of wish they had done differently. Like, he's got this butt skirt that this is just here. It's not really much you can do about it. You can unplug his butt. You can unplug it and like move it up to hinge it out of the way if you want, which is good, but like this just kind of sits back here. I kind of wish that cleaned up a little bit better, but I also don't really know what they could have done. So it is what it is. And the door wings. I wish they had done the door wings a little differently, because the only motion you get on them is like these hinges here, and they don't really rotate here, but they slide up and down for the transformation. But it doesn't look good if you slide them down. And then here, you can hinge them around and rotate them and stuff. But they just don't look good from most angles, other than the default, so you kind of have to leave them like this. You can't really get expressive with them, which is really a shame. I just wish you could get a little bit more expression out of these back wings, but like it's a nothing complaint to have with a figure this complex, I think. It's, yeah, very minor nitpick. But yeah, as I said, it's pretty clean all the way around. They even have some painted and sculpted detailing along the back, which is really cool. Maybe they could have done a little bit of sculpting detailing on the insides of the door wings, but I'm not mad about it. It just is kind of like with everything else going on, this does look a little plain, but like when are you going to look at them from the back like this? And one other thing I do want to talk about, which is not like a nitpick, it's more of a what thing, is the backs of the thighs here. These are separate pieces. Let me grab my spudger here so you can see what I'm talking about. Like these bits here, they're separate pieces and they fold out, and I don't understand why. They don't seem to get in the way of the knee articulation, and you don't move these for transformation. If you fold these out for transformation, it's not going to work. There's not enough room for these to be folded out. You have to keep them tucked in like that. So it just seems a little strange that they bothered to do this. Like maybe it's something to do with like a different figure they were working on or already put out, but like I don't understand this. And trying to transform this guy without instructions, that was kind of annoying. And the head is suitably jazzed. It's the right shape. The face, I think, looks good. I like the visor. I kind of wish that it was a little brighter, but I could always paint that if I really wanted to. Yeah, I've got no complaints. It's even got that like pearlescent coloring for the face, and the face is that brighter white that the hands that I'm pointing to you can't see, and the thighs are. They even have like this kind of gold color in the head crest, and even these tiny vents on the side, which is cool. I like that. And it's a good jazz shape. It's very recognizable. It kind of looks like it's supposed to open. Like there's a hinge back here or something like that, but I don't think that's what that is, and I don't want to force anything. Now, articulation on this guy is pretty darn good. The head you already saw has a lot of motion to it. You've got side to side, which is pretty dang nice. The head can go all the way around. It can go up quite a bit and look bad doing it, but it can go up. It can go down quite a bit. You can even like hinge it forward if you really wanted to. Hinge it back. So nice expression on the head. The shoulders, I already showed the door wings. The shoulders can go all the way around, or at least in theory can go all the way around. The problem is this piece here that sits here for the transformation, that gets in the way of the shoulder rotation, so it can only go forward that far. Can go back around this way to about there until it crashes into that. So like you can't get the get the arm going all the way up. Get nice outward motion. There is a bicep rotation. The elbow is double jointed, so it can bend that far on the first joint and then even further on the second joint. So it's almost a full curl, and it even reveals some kind of neat like wire tube detailing. And I also like this panel that kind of moves and comes out with the elbow motion. That's cool. The hands, they rotate. They don't like wiggle, but they do rotate. The fingers are all ball jointed on teeny tiny ball joints, so you can rotate them if you want, but they also give you a little bit of spread. The thumb is on a ball joint, so you can move it around like that, and then you also have the single joint for the knuckle. And then for the fingers, you've got the connector, the ball joint connection to bend in, and then you also have a single knuckle and that. And I don't think they needed more because these are very small fingers. So I'm okay with them not being like multi-jointed because I don't want to break them. Now, another thing you may have noticed as I'm moving this guy around is he has ab crunch, like a lot of ab crunch. You get first ab crunch, second ab crunch. So he can bend forward pretty far, and then if you get this involved, it gets even further, but then you start to like break up the transformation. But in addition to that, you also get side-to-side motion. You do get a waist rotation, which this will get in the way of, but you can just hinge it down so you can get around without any problems. The hip skirts, they rotate because of the transformation, but they do also go out. The front skirts also go out, and they're on like a weird shifting joint. It's hard to see, but there is like this shift that happens in there, so it can shift up and down. The legs are actually on a, they have like a drop-down joint, so you can use the regular hinge to go forward about that far and back. Uh-oh. Oh no. Well, that's not good. All right, well, this is happening now. That's great. But there is a drop-down joint. Oh, that's what happened. This cracked. That just straight up cracked. Fantastic. But you've got the drop-down joint, so with the drop-down joint, you could bring the hips up and back further. Man, I really like this figure too. You can go out past 90. There is a thigh rotation, and then the knee can bend a little bit past 90. Literally all I did was rotate this, and that just cracked. That really sucks. And then for the feet, you get a little bit of ankle tilt and a little bit of up and down, and technically you also get some side-to-side motion, but like that moves this out of the way. So yeah, pretty posable when you're not breaking things. Now getting back to all the accessories. The swords look cool. They are identical, but they do look cool. And the way these work is there are slots in the handles that go into, or that go around rather, these tabs that are on the palms. I want to get the thumb kind of curled in out of the way. Otherwise, it's probably not going to work right. You might stress some plastic, but you just tab the sword in, curl the fingers around, and now he is Sword Boy. But you may notice the swords do have these little odd little like triangle bits carved into the very end. So if we slide this down on the peg on the palm, what we can do is slide the ends of the swords together. There we go. And that gives him like a double-bladed, double sword thing, which is really cool. I like that. I like that you have that option. I prefer not to use it simply because he holds it so far. Like even if you move this all the way up, that's still, there's so much down there, and you can't really get him to like tab. It can't tab in the center. He can hold it kind of, but yeah. So you can't tab it in the center, which sucks. And I don't think it looks as good if he's not holding it towards the center, so I don't generally do it, but still, it's an option. And then for the rifles, it's the same deal, and we saw this in his hand already. This pegs in there, you curl the fingers around, and he is now holding his gun. This one, it can peg into the hand just like this one, or you can peg it into the back here and lean it forward to give him his shoulder launcher, which I think is very cool. So as I'm bringing out the size comparisons, I do want to apologize. My energy levels are going to be extremely low for the rest of this video because I am so bummed out about his hip breaking like that. So the figure is actually pretty darn big, like very, very big. This is probably bigger than a liter, well, definitely bigger than a liter in terms of height. But yeah, he's very sizable, and even significantly taller than a masterpiece-ish third-party figure like MakeToys Downbeat. Though with Downbeat, you've got more expression on the door wings, and you can even like tuck them behind if you want to do the non-door winged look. All right, let's try and transform this guy with this going on. We'll see what happens. So, transformation on this guy, as I said, is actually not bad. First thing, going to take care of the fists and forearms. So, going to open up the panel here, and the forearm's going to tuck in here. Fingers, you kind of want to curl up so that they're balled up. Of course, you can't see it. Balled up like this. And this should... The problem is this kind of sticks over this lip a little bit. So you got to find like a good angle where stuff's not going to get caught up. Like you can see if you have the fist this way, this is not going to want to go down because that is going over that lip. And if you go this way, it's still over the lip. So I'm going to leave the fist like this, curl in those fingers, and rotate it down like this. And I'm going to leave the thumb up because I don't want to risk that ball joint. But rotate this down, and yeah, that works. At this point, I don't care if I break the fingers because I already broke the leg. So that is one fist done. Same deal here. Bring this down, curl in those fingers, bring the fist down, and then bring in the thumb, close that up. For the upper body, you want to unplug this backpack chunk. Bring these back just to kind of get things out of the way a little bit. Bring this down, untab these sections and bring them up. And we can bring up the torso a bit because it's hinged up in there. And now these panels should untab and come out just a little bit. Untab and come out. This panel folds up, and these will come back down to fill in here. And while we're doing all of this, I bring this up. It's a lot of just parts everywhere. So the windshield you want to bring up to make sure that's out of the way, because this is going to need to shift back. This panel will pop up. This just untabs from here, so this pops up. The head rotates in, and then this all rotates back down, plugs back in, and the head just kind of sits in there. The wheels will hinge out, and it actually like hinges out a lot. You want to rotate the arms, make sure those aren't in the way. And now the wheels will kind of rotate and shift in on this double hinge. They shift inward. I should not have connected these bits yet, so I'm going to unplug this again. But this will shift in. You want to make sure that those hinges are going in. So that all hinges in, and it will settle in like that. Now this piece can come forward, and this tab will sit in this little slot right behind the wheel, or right in front of the wheel rather. And that gives us this thing. I want to get these window pieces out of the way, so I'm going to fold these out, bring this up, because there is a hinge for it. And now when this comes down, you'll notice there are these little slots, if you can see them, there's little slots on this bar here. So what happens is these panels come up and they shift in, and then when this comes down, there are these little tabs on the sides of these panels that will actually tab into the side of this bar. There we go. And those all tab in. Now we've got this going on. And with this going on, it should be good to bring this in, though I'm trying to remember. I think this is actually supposed to be rotate. No, not like that. All right, never mind. I think I do have to. Yeah. Yep, I got that wrong. I was mistaken before. You actually do want to rotate the biceps because the tops of the biceps are lined up perfectly to fit around the shape of the crunched up midsection. So now I'm going to bring this back in, tab everything together if it will let me. This panel can come down, and the entire butt actually unplugs and hinges down. The front skirt also untabs, and it will hinge down at least a little bit. And the hip skirts, they swing on like a double hinge here to come back. I believe they're supposed to sit like this. I think it has been a minute since I transformed this guy, so my apologies. But there we go. Going to straighten out the thigh rotation, straighten out the legs. And I believe also what you want to do is you want to have this swing joint kind of straight up and down. So we should be good on the legs right now. Just got to bring the legs in. And this is so disappointing. There is a seam here. You can actually separate the pelvis, and this will hinge out. Okay, so for the legs are involved, but not bad. You want to take this piece over the foot and untab it. It actually kind of goes up and in, like this. So you want to pull out like this and then swing it around so you can bring it up like that. Okay, now I'm going to take the ankle and rotate it back at this hinge just to get a little bit more clearance here. And with that clearance, going to take the little bits around the foot and rotate those around so that they just line up with the foot piece. And then this whole piece will shift up and back and sit flush against the foot. This whole bit is where it gets a little bit more complicated. So this will untab. What happens is this knee pad is tabbed into this tab right below the knee. So you want to pull this whole thing back so you can take this tab section in here, and this will fold up into the kneecap. And then you can untab the kneecap, and it won't go back like this does, but you do want to get it out of the way. Now, this whole assembly will shift and hinge in, and you want to go as far in as you can, and this circular bit should sit into this little notch on the back of the thigh. And this is where you would think that folding this piece up would be necessary, but no. So then this closes back up, and now that that's closed back up, this knee pad comes back down and just kind of rests on the thigh. Now, going to rotate the wheel up and around, and it will kind of soft lock. It soft locks down, but it also soft lock in the upper position. And now comes, like, this is the most complicated part of the transformation as far as I'm concerned, which is getting the feet oriented properly. First off, there is a little tab in here. Don't want to forget to flip that out. Now, this chunk here with the foot attached will untab from here and swing out. This should be able to come out, and now we want to basically swing this up and get this spoiler section around this piece. And just kind of want to give yourself as much clearance as possible by moving all this stuff out of the way slowly. Hinge this up and around, and then hinge this back down. It's not that bad. You just gotta give it a little bit of time, and you'll get it. Now this will come back down, and then this is going to rotate so that this armature sits inside this kind of cylindrical groove on the inside of the shin. So you want to rotate this up. And with that rotated up, this will swing in. And then the foot just kind of sits back like this. And so this will swing around and basically tab back into place on here, but it also tabs into this black section on the shin. And finally, there is actually get this out of the way so you can see, there is a kind of a weird angled tab right here that will tab into the top of the foot, which is where this panel was originally situated. So if we bring this back down, this comes in, and this will tab into the top of the foot, and that is the chunk of car all taken care of, or the leg all taken care of. I'm going to take care of this one off camera. All right, now that that is done, it is also worth pointing out that this foot also has a tab you have to fold out, and then when you bring the feet together, they actually tab together. And that finishes off the legs. So what you want to do next is hinge this whole butt assembly forward, and this panel, butt panel, will tab in down here. And these tabs here will go into these little grooves on the back here. So this comes in, and we'll push down and peg in. And it also kind of goes over the little loops in the backs of, in what used to be the backs of the calves. Now we want to get the roof section over the windows. I folded this bar back up because we just need more clearance basically to bend on this hinge so that this can clear the translucent blue plastic pieces a little bit better. So just carefully bring this up and around, like so. This will come back. This is so hard to show. There are these tabs here that need to go into these slots up here. But at the same time, this bar has to slide underneath, like kind of underneath here. And it is a little bit tricky to do. I forgot to do a thing because I moved this bar for a space here. I got to move it back down so that it's not bumping into stuff up here. This whole thing has been a mess. This actually does not tab in here yet. What you want to do is take, what I found is easiest is to take the doors, and there are these tabs here that go into these metal struts. You want to tab that in, and then this tab will sit in here. And same deal here, kind of rotate this out, slide this all the way forward. Come on, slide. There we go, okay. This didn't break, it just popped out. Bring this in and have this tab into the strut. And have this go into there. Now this will all come back down, and these bits, I'm just going to bring these up actually, because these need to tab into here, and I think it's easier to get it in place if you just do this. So bring this down. This little bar will go underneath the back plate, and then this will all shift together. These windows can now come in and tab into the forearms. That windshield looks okay, that's good. These can rotate back down, and these will tab into the sides of the doors. And lastly, this can come down to fill in that bit on the roof. These panels will rotate 180 degrees, and you just kind of want to, they don't peg in to here, but they just kind of line them up with the spoiler. Rotate them around, line them up, and then bring these in to sandwich everything together to make the spoiler, and then just shift the spoiler back to your liking. And that, I am sorry for the mess, but that is Super Soldier Jezzy all transformed into his vehicle mode. It is really not bad. I just hadn't done it in a while and was being really awkward about it. And also, as I said, was very thrown off by the fact that the hip broke. Here is Jezzy in vehicle mode, and my goodness, this is not a great vehicle mode. I mean, it's cool that he transforms, and it does look kind of like Jazz's vehicle mode, but it is so messy. Like, I don't mind the contours and stuff like that, but there's so much like weird gappiness and like disconnected bits, and like the edges to it are just kind of weird and wrong feeling. It's not great. Again, it is cool that it transforms, and the robot mode looks really cool, but like this is not what you get this figure for, I don't think. I mean, maybe you get it for the fact that it does transform, but like not for the vehicle mode looking amazing, I don't think. But as I said, it still calls to mind Jazz's vehicle. You got the stripe going down the center, you got the spoiler. I kind of like the metallic blues they put on the wheels here, though the front wheels in particular don't roll that well. But it's still cool. There's a lot of detailing on this, which some of it's a bit extreme, but it's, you know, it's pretty nice for what it is overall. And now you do have weapon storage. So there are swords. There are a few different places where these can plug in. You can plug them into the wheels because it's not the centerpiece that spins, so you can plug them in there. And I swear there was somewhere else to plug these in, but I did a really bad job of preparing for this video, so I don't know. Can't tab in there. So for now, we'll just plug them in here, and also we'll do this. We'll do one back here and one on the other side. So there is knife storage. For these, you can actually tab them in up top here. I'm trying to find a good angle because none of the angles really look good, but you can tab these in up here if you want to do that. And the guns can actually tab into these tabs on these sides of the spoiler, so you can have them going like this. Now, I turn the speakers around because I think they look slightly better, but not good, but slightly better. And yeah, this is the car mode all decked out and stuff, and I mean, it's not really much worse than how it looked before, but it does kind of distract from the overall size of this thing, so we're just going to remove all of this stuff, and you can plug the swords into the front wheels too if you want. So get all this unplugged so we can do our size comparisons and finally put this horrific video to bed. Here he is with the typical stuff, and just like the robot, the vehicle mode is much, much bigger. And because I'm so over all of this because of the hip breakage, I just don't have the wherewithal to transform Downbeat right now. So here he is with Downbeat in his robot mode. Anyway, that is it for BingoToys Super Soldier Jezzy, and I am very sorry about that transformation and everything. It's just, I'm still just so bummed about this, because I really like this figure. I think the transformation is actually pretty cool and interesting, and I like how surprisingly solid the torso is and the way it all comes together. But man, that could just be mine. I don't know. Maybe something happened with mine where, like, that's just a thing that was unfortunate, like some kind of weird construction issue with mine, or some kind of, like, I don't know, some kind of production flaw, something with the plastic. Maybe it's a design flaw. I don't know. I don't go to TFW regularly, so I don't know if this is a thing, but man, that sucks. I hope this doesn't put you all off of the figure, though, because, like, I've had this guy for a while, and I transformed him several times before now, and it hasn't been a problem at all. But I also haven't touched him for several months, so maybe something happened in the interim. I don't know. This happens sometimes, I guess. But anyway, that's all I've got to say about Jezzy, other than the name being kind of crap. I do think he looks really cool. I think the transformation, as terrible a job as I did showing it off, I do think the transformation is actually pretty clever and pretty intuitive, all things considered. There's just a few very particular things you got to keep an eye out for. But, like, it works. And the robot mode looks amazing. And the fact that he transforms is super cool. And he's really posable, as long as the joints don't break. So, yeah, you know, if this strikes your fancy, I'd say go for it. You know, should be fine. I think what happened to mine was just a fluke. But, that's kind of all I've got right now. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.